Hello friends, I do get messages on and off asking my views on which is the best method to follow and focus on, whether it is KP or the 4 step or the Bhaskaran or the Cuspal Interlinks, Khullar, Nadi, Parashar. So which of these is the best method? These kind of emails I keep getting on and off. So based on my own experience, I can tell you that any method that demands a very accurate birth time, those methods are not very practical and I usually avoid using those methods. And second is that one method alone is not sufficient. So the method that demand a very accurate birth time are not very practical and one method is not sufficient. Why I'm telling you this is that if you are doing, let's say, 30 charts a month, one a day, that's fairly normal. And then later you realize that 8 or 10 of those charts have some doubt about the time of birth. So this is a huge waste of time. And so any method that demand an accurate birth or time, they just they are not very practical. And in many charts, the time of birth is inaccurate or doubtful, and 3 to 5 minutes difference is very normal. And apart from that, the the whole concept of what is the time of birth in astrology is itself a different issue. Therefore, personally, I just focus on methods that where very accurate birth time is not required. So let's look at the popular methods floating around. KP is there, Bhaskaran and Khullar method is there, and then of course the old Parashar school of astrology that is there. So if you look at if you look at the demand for the exact birth time, then in KP the demand is yes and no. I'll explain you in a while why I'm saying yes and no. In Bhaskaran and Khullar, it's the tolerance is very is negligible. You need to have a very accurate birth time. And in the old astrology, it is also yes and no, which I will explain you in a while. So let's first look at the Bhaskaran and the Khullar's method. This is usually popularly called as the Cuspal Interlinks, and this method was propounded by Bhaskaran, and then later on this was supported by Khullar. But this is one method. It is a very interesting method, and it gives a fairly new perspective and insight on the use of sublords and the cuspal sublords. And but this method demands a very accurate birth time. So if you are not aware of this method, how this method works, I'll just give you a very short glimpse of how this interlinked method, the one propounded by Bhaskaran and supported by Khullar work. Let's take this example chart. Now in this example chart, let's say that we want to find out the significators of the 10th cusp. So in this method, the interlinking of the cusp, or the cuspal interlinking theory by Bhaskaran, what you do is that you first take the uh, 10th cusp sublord, that here is Jupiter, and then you look at the star lord and sublord of the Jupiter in the planets table. So you have to focus here, and then you find that Jupiter is in the star of Mars and in the sub of Rahu. So now you have to look at if if at all Mars appears as the sublord in the list of cusp. So first cusp, no Mars, no Mars, no Mars, no Mars. So you see that Mars is not there. Mars is only there in the appears as the star lord for the third cusp. Okay. Now if you look at Rahu, which is the sublord of Jupiter, and if you now look at the sublord in the cusp table, you find Rahu, 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 and Rahu over here. So what you say is that the 10th house or the 10th cusp linking, how this 10th cusp has been linked. It has been linked to the houses 1, 2, 4, 5, 11, 3. So this is how they prepare a list of significators in this the Cuspal interlinking method. So now you see that this is totally dependent on the position of the on the sublord, you know, the who the sublord is, especially the cuspal sublord. Now what happens is if there is any a few minutes of difference, 3 or 5 minutes, then this sublord is going to change. This will become Saturn. Let's assume this becomes Saturn, or it could even become the Rahu. Okay, so let's assume that this is Saturn. Then in that case, then the 10th cusp significator changes. Now you have to put your focus over here, right? If it is Saturn, 10th cusp lord, then you have to look at Jupiter, and then you have to look at Mars. So obviously, you know, the significators of the 10th cusp will change based on this particular theory. And 3 to 5 minutes of inaccuracy in birth time is really not a big deal. I mean, I all the time I see these horoscopes, and since this particular theory is based on this kind of a interlinking, so I do not follow this Bhaskaran method. And on top of it, there are not many resources available on the internet, and there are some videos that you can find on YouTube, but mostly those are in Tamil, and not much resources there on using, you know, the English. And Bhaskaran books are also, they follow the same pattern the way Krishnamurti books were full of grammatical mistake, total not properly proofreaded, and I don't know why they can't hire a bunch of good editors to proofread and bring out a proper book. It's very confusing. If you read Bhaskaran's books, they are very confusing. The language is very bad. And then they are not easily approachable also, in the sense that if you try to send, there is a whole list of emails given in Bhaskaran's book. So if you send them an email, nobody responds. They don't care. And I don't think they are even interested in creating a community around, you know, their theory. So Bhaskaran is one that personally I don't use this theory. And I told you the reason. The main reason is that it is good for the horary thing, and but not really, you know, practical for the birth chart or the natal chart interpretation. Now let's look at what Khullar did. What Khullar did was that he adopted the Bhaskaran theory, and then he started using, you know, the sub rather than the sub alone. So it became all the more very precise. I mean, now you have to have a very accurate geo coordinates, a very accurate birth time. You know, when you are putting sub in, especially in the cusp, you can imagine that how quickly the cusp can change. So, I mean, this is the Khullar's method is also something that at least I don't use it, and I would not recommend my friends to delve into it. And on top of it, Khullar has not even acknowledged that he has written all these books. He has used KP method, and he has used Bhaskaran method. But I am surprised. Like, in his book, he has not properly acknowledged the work of KP or Bhaskaran, and he has projected this theory based on the sub as some new finding. So that's, you know, that's another thing. And third thing is that there is this trend in some of the astrologers to somehow be able to use, you know, this Nadi word, because this Nadi word has some great sale value. So if you somehow use or relate your method or your astrology to this Nadi word, it creates a sale value. That's what I think. So in some article or in somewhere in Khullar book, I realized that Khullar was using sub to relate it to the Nadiyansh. You know, the Nadiyansh is 150th part of a Rashi, and this requires a birth time accuracy of up to 40 seconds. So Khullar was trying to stretch this whole Cuspal interlink theory, and somehow he was trying to fit it into this Nadi Ansh. That the whole that exercise, I found it to be very weird. And since especially in the stellar methodology, a lot of people they tend to use this Nadi word. So let me make a slight detour over here and explain you what the Nadi astrology is, the way I have understood Nadi astrology. Now, if you look at this image on the left side, so this image is depicting what is called as the pranic nervous system, and it is giving a list of all these nadis according to the pranic nervous system. And if you are into all these chakra balance and those kind of things, I'm not into all that, kundalini and all that, then you will see that there are three main important nadis, which is called ida, pingla and sushumna. But there are other 8 or 10 equally very significant nadis. And out of that, at least one nadi, which is called the bhrigu nadi, is also very important. So what happens is, when our rishi munis, they were meditating and they were manipulating all these pranic energy or the pranic force, and when it used to channelize into the bhrigu nadi, then they used to get this siddhi or the occult power of knowing the past, present, and future of the various persons. And so this is how various Nadi methods have come into publication, because they saw something in the meditation, they wrote about it, and these are very mysterious methods. So I'm going to save all this discussion for a separate video on the Nadi. And but here the idea here was that don't get carried away by these so-called astrologers, trying to use this Nadi word and unnecessary trying to give weight to a method that doesn't actually work or is not very practical. So now let's move on to the KP method, and let's look at how the KP method is tolerant on the birth time. Does it need a very accurate birth time, or does it have some kind of a tolerance? Okay, so let's take this example. The reported birth time is May 1, and this is 10:09 in Delhi. Now, typically, what happens is when you ask a KP astrologer to create a horoscope, they will run a rectification, and I'm not at all surprised that in many places or in many horoscopes that came my way, I found that there was a rectification by some KP astrologer, and then there was a rectification by some KP astrologer B and astrologer A. So an astrologer A might rectify the time as 10:04, and then the astrologer B will modify the time or rectify the time to 10:11. Of course, and they use the ruling planet method for rectification. I personally I don't use a rectification method, the birth time rectification method. Many of you users have asked me to do a video on the birth time rectification. This is a very different it has a different complexity according to me, and a separate video is needed. But KP's method of birth time rectification for the natal chart doesn't work, and I don't use it. It doesn't give a uniform output, and so I don't use it. So now what happens is that if you get a horoscope, and if there is, let's say, some inaccuracy in the birth time, maybe 5 minutes or 7 minutes. In that case, of course, the cuspal sublots are likely to change. So in that case, at least in KP, what you can do is you can completely ignore this thing. KP, and you can still apply the KP rules just by based on the your table of planet, star lord, and sublord, and you can completely ignore cusp. This is what usually I do when I have a doubt about the accuracy of a birth chart, and in many cases I do have. So I don't even bother to take into account the cuspal sublord. This is my own thought that I am sharing with you. In many cases where I have seen that the birth time might be inaccurate by maybe 30 minutes or 40 minutes, In that case, I even don't bother to create a Cusp chart. Thus, the Rashi chart with the planets is alone is sufficient, and you can create a list of significators based on the Rashi chart and try doing it in your own chart. You will get a pretty good result. KP is a good solid methodology, and it has that kind of a flexibility. Having an accurate birth chart is always birth time is always good, but if you don't have, or if you have a doubt, then you can just ignore the cusp and just make use of the planned star lord and the sublord. Now let's let's so this is what I we discuss about the tolerance in the time of birth, and we looked at the Cuspal Interlink and Khullar and Bhaskaran method, and we found that those are not very practical. Now the second thing is that with so many methods floating around, what do we do? Do we just focus on one single method? I would strongly say that you should reach out to other methods for a helping hand. Even if you are heavily into KP, you will find that there are so many issues that you can't just totally depend on KP to judge a horoscope with confidence. And if you have read the KP's third reader, where KP has given, Shri KSK has given a lot of examples of the birth chart, you will be surprised to know that there is not even one example chart where the complete life reading is done based on the KP principle. Most of the 90% of the examples are only one question. That's somebody asking for diabetes, somebody asking for a foreign trip, or somebody asking for some change in the career. So these are one questions, and the interpretation is done using the natal chart. But since this is one question, so eventually the list of the fruitful significators is calculated using the golden rules of the ruling planet. So this approach is okay when somebody approaches you with just one question, and you have to look at the birth chart. But suppose when you are doing a life reading, where you have to look at a chart and then you have to cover everything: education, marriage, job, career changes, disease, and so many other things. In that case, then one set of ruling planets will not be very helpful. And then what do you do? I mean, if the ruling planets are not handy for this kind of a life reading, then there are some KP's rule that are scattered all over the place. Nobody has compiled it, and you have to, when you read some of the KP articles and look into his other books and all that, then you find that there are hints scattered all over the place. So I started compiling a few. Let me give you, one small example that how what kind of hints are there in KP's other article. Suppose let's say suppose you are finding the most probable Bhuktinath for marriage in a chart. If you're looking in a natal chart, and if you have to identify that which bhukti might bring about the marriage, this is not easy. This is not easy in KP. Or for that matter, the predictive side is really tough if you follow any methodology. It doesn't matter. So in KP, what happens is if you look at the list of significators and you find that planet A, B, C all seem to be a strong significator at all levels for the purpose of marriage. Now you are confused. What do? You are not taking the help of the ruling planet because you are doing a life reading. So at that time, then this is just a small suggestion or a hint from Krishnamurti, apart from any other. Then you have to look at the Dasha Lord's Rashi. Now, if it is a movable, then what do? Then you allocate a good point, positive point to the immediate Bhuktinath in the Dasha timeline. If the Dasha Lords, if you have three, let's say three, significators for the marriage, and you have to identify which Bhuktinath would eventually give the marriage, then if the Dasha Lord Rashi is movable, then the immediate Bhuktinaj, which is going to appear in the Dasha line, is something that you should consider, because movable means that the things are going to happen very fast. If it is in a common sign, then you have to ignore the first significator and focus on the next one, because common sign indicates some kind of a duality or multiple attempts. If it is in the fixed, then focus on the last. So these kind of rules are all scattered in various articles, and I might do a video and where I'm going to share my own notes, and I was able to compile a few of such hints. And so this is how you have to create a checklist. You have to create a checklist of 5 or 7 rules, about how to eventually find out the significator that are going to bring about a particular event. A 50% might be, let's say you are into KP, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't use old astrology. It's your preference, but let's say that you are into KP, then 50% of these checklist rules might come from KP. 25% might come from, in my experience, or in my the thing I use, I use the advanced chart, which I'm going to show you how I use it. And then 25% might come from your experience and previous case studies. So one method alone is not sufficient, and you have to make use of all these various tools. See, even if you look at Krishnamurti Paddhati, Krishnamurti made use of the Placidus cusp. Placidus cusp was not a part of Indian astrology. So, but Krishnamurti has successfully made use of the Placidus cusp, and if you have to look the magic of these Placidus cusp, then you have to get into the KP horary, where you can see that how magically this Placidus cusp help you solve a query using Krishnamurti Paddhati. Or let's look at the for example the modern medicine. The modern medicine makes use of the yoga, right? The yoga has nothing to do with modern medicine per se, but still this the fusion method is always good. Make use of all good tools that are available to you. And so this is how you then move forward and judge a horoscope. And now let me give you an example of how I use the Navansh when I'm interpreting a chart using KP. Then I also make use of the Navansh chart. So I'm just going to give you a very brief idea about how I use it, and I'm keeping this the issue of accurate birth time also in my mind, because if you use the Shodashvark chart like the Navansh or the D12, D30, D60, again you get into this hassle of whether the birth time is accurate or not. And if you are looking at some of these videos where these D60 chart, the discussion on the D60 chart, or the method how to use the D60 chart is all discussed. These methods are not very, or these videos are not very, at least for me, these are not very helpful, because they assume that they have a very accurate birth time. If you're trying to create a D60 chart, then you better make sure that you have a birth time that is accurate in seconds. So these kind of approach is not very helpful, and I don't use it. What I do is, and this particular thing I have mentioned in my previous videos also, that the Navansh chart, one method is that, let's to look at this Rashi chart. This is the Navansh chart where the ascendant is Gemini, and this is the Navansh ascendant. But suppose if there is if the ascendant is right on the cusp of a particular Navansh, then you don't know. It might be the Navansh ascendant might change, so that doubt is there. So there is something called Karakansh Navansh. In Karakansh Navansh, what they do is that they use the same ascendant. The ascendant is same, right? But the planets are noted the way they are placed in the Navansh chart. So, for example, the let's take the moon. The Mars. The Mars in Navansh chart is in Taurus, so we put it here in Taurus. and then the Navancha sun is in Virgo, so we put it over here, and then moon is in Pisces, and so you put it over here. So when especially I can say from my experience, when I take this kind of approach, I have this at least peace of mind that I'm not concerned with whether the birth time is accurate or not. And if I would strongly recommend that if you have a good experience of all these Shodash work charts, you might want to look into this the Karkansh approach, so that you are sure that your ascendant is not way off, and the Navansh, this kind of Karkansh Navan that I use is to uh, to find out the transit for a particular event, because the traditional KP transit in the natal is not very helpful. So I make use of the Navansh, and I'm going to share with a practical example in maybe in some other videos that when I get time, then I'm going to create and upload. So that's all for this session, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. Thanks.